I'm Gloria Strode and welcome to Straightforward. We are doing part 2 of our visit with State Representative Debbie Buckner and her amazing husband, Mike Buckner. We're here at Filder's, which is a museum, but it's also family legacy property. And Mike, your family has been here since when?
1830.
1830. These grounds are just amazing. We have water that supplies the energy for the grits mill, and today we are going to get a chance to look at that and see how much work it took, just the things we take for granted when we go to the grocery store. But here on this property, you're still doing it the old-fashioned way. People have special orders, and I remember Representative Buckner, when you were running for office once, you gave me a bag of grits, and I saved those. Actually, I did, and shared those with my mother-in-law, who's from Los Angeles, and she was just amazed that we still had people doing that. But Mike, you were sharing earlier that the belt, I asked you in a sidebar, when the belts break, who repairs those? And you told me that belt has been working how long?
90 years.
90 years. So that says that when we had Made in America, back then, it was truly made to last in America. And of course, now we're in a kind of microwave society, so everything's not really lasting like it did then. So here at the mill, your family, you've been doing grits, cornmeal, flour.
Whole wheat flour.
Whole wheat flour, and I was amazed to just see. So explain that process, how that works, because we have the water. So you were able to what? Let the gate up to explain that process.
Well, Gloria, there's been a mill here since 1840.
Okay.
And the old mill burned. And my great-grandfather built this building in 1930.
Okay.
And it has
so this is quote unquote the new
mill.
in 1930.
1930.
Okay.
But it has a water turbine underneath the building, and we have a mill pond. It's about a 25-acre lake pond that feeds. It's Patchalaggy Creek, as we talked earlier.
Okay, and Patchalaggy
means pigeon roost in the Creek Indian terminology.
Okay, from Native Americans.
Native Americans.
Okay.
But the mill, the turbine generates about 25 horsepower. And also, when my grandparents ran the mill, they had an electric generator that they could produce lights for the house.
Really?
Now, they couldn't do anything else, but that was a step above that kerosene
Absolutely,
lamp,
yes. They were trailblazers with that, yes.
But I've been running the mill now about 56 years.
Really?
I started when I was 14. My grandfather had died, and my grandmother was getting older, and so she said, you know, I was wanting to make a little extra money.
Right.
Make some money.
Exactly.
And so she let me run the grist mill. And I had
which is real work.
Exactly. But I had 16 stores at that time, country stores.
Okay.
And I had to hire a man to make my meal route, delivery.
Really?
But when I got 16, I cut him loose.
Because you could deliver, you had a driver's license.
The whole thing.
Okay.
And so
that was being an astute businessman, even at 16.
But we had a lot of business back then. People used to come to the mill. Everybody had a garden and had a bushel or two of corn left over.
Right.
They would bring to the mill. So every Saturday was a public grind day, and people would show up, and I took a fourth of their corn to grind for them.
Really?
That was a toll.
Okay, so that was a toll, a fourth of their corn.
And then I, in turn, could grind that toll and deliver it to the stores.
Okay, and you made money that way.
That way.
Isn't that something? And so you started this at 14.
Yeah.
So you've actually lived on this property your whole life?
Whole lot, yeah.
Your whole life?
Grew up playing under the mill.
Under the mill?
Under the mill.
Because we saw when you went under this morning to say this is where the water comes from the pond that powers the mill, and so it starts the moving.
That's right.
Yes, and so...
And fish come up behind that mill, and so I would fish back there. That would be a good place to go fishing.
To catch fish.
Catch fish.
So who was the person, your grandfather?
Yeah.
Again, I always want to use everything as a teachable moment. So again, we have engineering and math.
Yes, sure.
Because
we have to have 14 feet of fall from the top of the lake to the bottom of the race where the water is exhausting.
Right.
To make that wheel turn.
Yeah, and all of it has to work hand and glove. So this part.
That's right.
And that's what we saw that
to turn that millstone, which weighs a ton.
Right, because this is what this is,
this
right?
This is the bottom stone. And
Okay.
it is stationary, but the big heavy stone rotates on top, and the grain just really lubricates the two stones. It keeps
Really?
them from touching.
Okay. So again, that's that perfect math.
Perfect
It
match.
has to be perfect math. So Debbie, you've been married. You all have been married almost 50 years. So you married into this. Was this something new to you, or were you a city girl, or was that a big stretch for Mike to introduce all of this to you?
Well, a lot
Culture
of
shock.
Culture
Culture
shock.
shock.
a lot of it was new. My mom was from the rural area of South Carolina.
Okay.
And so we would spend some summers with my great grandfather on his farm. And he was an excellent farmer, and my great grandmother had chickens, and he had mules and pigs. So I was not totally foreign to me what the rural lifestyle was like.
But not
But
the
the grist mill was different. My mom talked about going to the grist mill, and I remember Mike's mom talking about how funny it was when people would go to the cotton gin, and
Right.
the sucker pipe where they would get the cotton out of the wagons would sometimes get a man's hat and pull
Yes,
it off his
yes.
head and go up in the pipe. And so I grew up probably not being as intimately involved with all the functions and the workings, but
Right.
I wasn't totally clueless.
right.
About
So you
some
were not
parts of
this
it.
Hollywood girl or New York girl coming to
No.
Junction
No.
City. It wasn't that big of a culture shock.
I was pretty much a tomboy growing
Okay.
up.
So it was just a little learning curve. It wasn't a big learning.
It was a big learning curve. There's
right.
no doubt about that. But I did have an introduction, if
Okay.
you will, before.
All
I
right.
came.
And so your children, I mean, this is generations, what, 9 generations?
Right.
So your children. So your children have learned
Yes.
and grown up here.
Yeah.
And so this is a part of their legacy.
I hope they will continue. You know, they enjoy seeing me do it. They don't have time right now.
Well, all of them are well-educated professionals,
Yeah.
and so this is just a little different, but hopefully we're going to get that right grandchild that's going to
Yes,
just be
coming on,
excited.
coming on.
Right, that's willing and interested in doing this. And so this is also a part of Harvest
Days.
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 So people get a chance to come down and watch you with this process.
Right.
So we talked about earlier the sugar cane. So this is the end product
That's
Right.
correct.
where we're actually physically making syrup.
Squeeze the juice out of the cane, and then cook that juice into syrup.
It takes up like 80 gallons. Our kettle holds 80 gallons of juice, cane
Okay.
juice.
Cane
And you
juice.
cook that down for about 4 hours.
So we got a fire.
big wood fire.
Okay, a wood fire.
Wood
Okay,
fire.
okay.
And that
Not
boil-
electric.
Not electric.
Okay.
And it boils that juice down until it turns to syrup. Takes about 4 hours. And so the 80 gallons produces about 8 gallons
Of syrup.
of syrup.
80 gallons of liquid.
Right.
Only do 8 gallons of syrup?
That's
Because
correct.
you're cooking the water out of the juice to
Evaporating.
make it where it's thick, like syrup.
Okay, so this is sugar cane.
Yeah.
Syrup.
Right. Okay, so this is what we need. We're Southerners.
We
But
didn't
when-
do sorghum. We did sugar cane.
Sugar cane, when we have our biscuits
Right. Buttered biscuit,
in the morning,
sausage.
sausage, and then when we have our the salmon patty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have
That's right.
for breakfast.
For breakfast.
Right, so that's a Southern delicacy.
Yeah.
Right, I just want my husband to know that who's from Los Angeles. But this is something that he fell in love with coming to Talbot County to visit with my cousins. Right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go to our first break to our sponsors, and we'll be right back. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by State Senator Ed Harbison, serving the citizens of Georgia's 15th Senatorial District and on the front lines for veterans every day. Progressive Funeral Home, family owned and operated since 1952. The George Ford legacy of high standards continues today in the compassionate and professional services provided. A touch of dignity for those who care. Progressive Funeral Home, 4235 St. Mary's Road, trusted by generations.
The Columbus Memory Center, 7196 North Lake Drive, Suite A, Columbus. Dr. Jonathan Liss is a board-certified neurologist and sleep specialist committed to battling Alzheimer's by preserving independence, offering you the opportunity to get your memory number for free, the only vital sign for brain health. Call today at 706-327-4000 or visit columbusmemorycenter.com.
And welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing this amazing conversation with State Representative Debbie Buckner and her awesome husband, Mike Buckner, who is a man of many talents and skills. And joining us is one of their customers that has traveled across the state, Mr. Ames from South Georgia.
O'Clockney.
And he's here to get some of these wonderful products that's still being made from scratch, made in America. 110% is the best. So Mike, this is why you do what you do.
Oh yeah.
This was perfect timing. Again, we didn't know Mr. Ames was going to drive up at this time, but I'm so happy that he did. So Mr. Ames, you're here today. What did you come for? You're coming for flour, meal, grits?
All three.
All three.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, have you had the products before, or is this your first time?
My son is in California right now, and he's wanting some mill grain grits.
Okay. So
Stone
you're
ground.
going to get these and send them to the West Coast.
Yes.
How amazing. See, Mike, I told you, you're going to be a star. we have to know, because this is one of the best kept secrets in our area. And I'm just so excited because I didn't realize, and again, you know, I said in part one, my dad and my family had visited here, my grandchildren and my husband, but I never came because it was, you know, with the schedules with all of the other community activities. But again, this is a testimony to why what you do is so important. And people want natural now. You know, everything that they make, Mr. Ames, they're putting preservatives and additives, and so that's probably why your son wanted this for you to send it to him.
He's a vegetarian.
Okay.
But he specifically wanted some grits. And he wanted the stone ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you made a journey all the way here just to get those pure. We've not done anything in the factory. We've seen the process here today. It's just amazing. I'm sure he's going to share with you how he does that.
Well, thank you, Gloria, for exposing us.
I
to the
told you
public.
I'm going to be your agent. They have to come to me.
Yeah.
You're going to be in Hollywood.
I'm gonna put you on a commission.
All right, that sounds great. But prior to this, and I was saying, I guess, Debbie, you are blessed. I didn't realize Mike had been the postmaster. So in addition to maintaining this, which is real work, I mean, every part of this, whether we are with the train and he's laying the train tracks, or he's coming here working at the mill, he worked for the U.S. Postal Service for how many years?
25 years.
25
No,
years?
26, I think.
26.
Because I took an early retirement. I had to have 25 years, and I believe I had to be 50 years old. But I went to work for the Postal Service because I needed some benefits.
Okay.
And as a small office I was in, I was off at 2 o'clock every day. So that gave me the afternoon to work on the farm, run the grist mill,
See,
and do the other things that I really wanted to do.
you did, the work was work, but it was your passion.
Yes.
So you would leave your real full-time job to come to your passion job.
Exactly.
And then you would work here probably from
10 to 10.
That's what I was going to say. Until
Yeah.
you would just held hostage and have to go up to the house.
Exactly.
Okay, so how did that work with dinner, Debbie? Did we have to bring dinner out here, or he just ate when he showed up?
That's
I
it.
ate when he showed up.
And so you all have been able to do all of this, raise children, now you have grandchildren, and then of course you do a great job as a state representative. That's a lot of balls to keep in the air. So do you have a calendar that helps to manage all of this, or?
We do keep a master calendar, so we can kind of
We
try to
really
keep up
have both. I have one, she has one, and we
have one that's
come to a
blended.
combination.
Right, because you still have special customers.
Events, yeah.
Right, and you have the special events, but you have special customers. And then you shared with me earlier, you were doing whole wheat flour.
Right.
You were grinding that for a special customer that's going to pick that up.
By the way, that special customer is from Gainesville, Georgia. He called me this morning and he wanted to know all about the whole wheat, and I told him it was local grown, it was non-GMO, and then he told me, well, I'm a physician,
Really?
and I wanted to be able to share a source of flour with my patients, because the grains that we are eating from the stores
Yes.
are not being digested in our bodies like they should be.
Right.
And so we have developed corn and grains that will produce many, many bushels,
Right.
but it's not very well digested by humans. Now,
Right.
it works good for hogs and cows,
Right.
but not people.
And so that's why he's driving all the way from
Gainesville, Georgia.
to Junction City, Georgia, because your stuff doesn't have all
No
of that
additives.
additives. It's just the real deal.
Yeah.
We like to say there's nothing added, nothing taken out. So you have to find a sifter when you get ready to use it.
Right,
It
old fashioned. My
Right,
grandmother
right,
had it,
right.
and you sift it through.
because it may have too much brand for you to like. But the important thing is that it's nothing added, no
And you know where
additives.
it comes from.
And you know, and so
All
you are
natural.
and
All Georgia,
all Georgia, all natural.
all natural.
All right. And so that's what your son is looking for over on the West Coast.
Yep.
And what we want you to do, Mr. Ames, is we want your son to tell all of his friends. And we also, since this is a part of a museum, and they have big events twice a year, and harvest days, you have to come back, take pictures. So the California people, they can send us a big check to the museum, the nonprofit part. See, that's one thing about me. If my friends know Mr. Ames, I have no shame. And the reason I say that is I want this to remain. And it takes money to do that.
That's right.
And so when they do events for the community, they do a big thing at Christmas for the kids with the Polar Express. I don't even think you know, but he has a real steam engine train that he's put together. So I want you all to come back, and then of course State Representative, his wife Debbie Buckner, does the hobo soup. And so the kids love that because she's serving them soup. They don't like vegetables, but they like hers because she's serving it to them in a tin can. So they think it's great and they think it's wonderful.
Right.
And so then in the harvest days, that's what, November 4th and 5th. It's a Saturday and a Sunday. I want you to come back because we want your son. And then they'll have the people here. This is the homemade syrup. So that's made from what, the sugar cane?
Sugar cane.
And it's all from nothing added. So they boil it here, it's everything, it's no additives. So I just want you to buy everything for your son. Then I want all of your son's friends to order all of this, okay? All right, that's you, the new marketing guy. All right. Well, this is just really a great time, a great conversation. The grounds are beautiful. I'm excited that you all would do this. But what we're going to do now is go to our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors.
Apple Tax Services for the best in tax preparation. 7413 Whitesville Road, Columbus. Call for your appointment today at 706-243-2590 or 706-243-2595. And remember, an apple a day keeps the audits away. The law offices of Siobhan S. Thomas and Associates, 201 9th Street in Uptown Columbus, 706-350-7232. A veteran-owned law firm dedicated to equal rights and justice for all. Make Siobhan S. Thomas and Associates your first choice for legal services. Visit SiobhanThomas.com. The Miley Agency, 4903 Armour Road. Gerald L. Miley and William Ripsinger have been providing comprehensive reviews and insuring families in Georgia and Alabama for more than 50 years. The Miley Agency will work non-stop to find you the best policy at the best price. You can rest assured that your information is secure, confidential, and protected. Call today at 706-996-2045.
And welcome back to Straightforward. We are continuing this wonderful visit and conversation with State Representative Debbie Buckner and her amazing, I gotta say it, amazing husband. Mike, you are a man of many skills, talents, gifts. In the previous segment, you shared that you have been the postmaster for 25 years. You are a walking history lesson. But then you shared with me in a sidebar that you attended CSU And then one of our teachers from Carver, Miss Rosa Standback,
Rosa Standback.
was one of your mentors
That's
and
right.
advisors, and you were a history major.
Right.
So that's why you have a thirst for that knowledge. So one of your goals at one point was to be a history teacher.
Right.
Right. And then you realized that with the politics of everything, that probably wasn't a good fit.
Right.
And I do understand, because we're from a different generation.
Right.
And then the rules and expectations were very different. So that's why you thirst and you understand the history so much, which makes the visit here. We've had people come from out of town, South Georgia. You got someone coming from North Georgia, just to take part in these wonderful products. What we got? Recipes for grits. We got whole
Wheat
flour. And for those that have these dietary restrictions, that's important. And then we have the cornmeal. And all of that's happening right here.
Right here.
Right. And it's special orders. Now, as a teenager, you had 14 stores.
Right.
Okay. So, but you're still doing special orders.
Special orders.
Right.
And people like to come, like these people like to see it ground. So if they'll let me know, we'll make an appointment.
Right.
They can come and I can grind the products for them.
And they can watch it.
They can watch it.
And it's amazing. So we've seen all of the engineering that happens with that. So Debbie, your district is primarily rural.
Mhm.
What do we need to do to ensure that all of this wonderful Georgia legacy, history, lands, waters, and all of that remain?
Well, I think it starts with an awareness. The urban areas cannot do without the rural areas.
Yes.
And honestly, the rural areas can no longer do without the urban areas.
Right.
We need them as customers.
Mhm.
We thrive better if we have things like electricity and telephones and broadband.
Right.
That helps us to be able to bring.
Because the customer is, not to cut you off, but the customer just said they used the GPS
Right.
to find Fielders, and they came from South Georgia. So we do need that broadband.
And
Yes.
we do.
Mhm.
And they called to make the appointment. So we are not wanting to go back to
No.
not having the necessities that are modern day necessities,
Mhm.
but we do want people to realize that things are different in the rural community.
Mhm.
We do have some different needs. We had a conversation offline a minute ago about the difference in our educational systems in the
Yes.
rural areas and in the urban areas. We may have a child that really wants to learn engineering or civics or physics, and
Right.
we may not have a teacher that is willing to come in the area and teach that. And so we have put in some things in the school systems across the state called virtual learning,
Okay.
so that a physics teacher in Atlanta can teach a class that a child in Taubleton could take advantage of.
All right. And
But-
that's to help them follow their dream, even though they're not physically here. They still get to take advantage of that.
Correct.
Right.
But we need the broadband to make it happen.
Exactly.
But in order for our children to want to come back, we've got to have some viability in the rural areas to provide the needed, necessary things. People find it incredible that this place right here did not have electricity till 1948.
Really? So the urban areas had electricity. I know that they did. Right.
Talbotton had it in 1900,
but
but the
you-
rural area did not.
Atlanta
not.
had it in the 1800s.
Okay. And so
So-
growing up here, which is just 9 generations, you didn't always have.
No,
Really?
no electricity till 1948.
So we
Oh, wow.
can't.
My parents grew up in an era that had no running water and no electricity.
Right. So they were going to the well,
Yeah.
drawing the water, and they had lanterns.
And
kerosene
lamp.
kerosene lamps in the outhouse. Now you have an outhouse here
Yes.
that my husband used today, but that was a kind of modern.
Yeah.
It looks kind of rustic from
Yeah.
the outside, but that's for when you have events,
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
people can experience that.
Right.
Right. People can experience that. Okay. And
But the point is that we don't need to hold the rural part of our state back like we did with electricity. We need to go ahead and make the investment and make sure that they get some of the, like the broadband, that we have an educational system that's fair in the rural areas, and that and it needs to be the public education system for the rural areas,
Right.
because we don't have the volume of students to have a bunch of different little schools. We need to be supportive of public education in a way that they can get what they need.
And I agree with that, right? Because if we, with all of these little specialty pods, then we haven't trained the masses. Of course, in the rural, we need to be making sure we're serving all the people.
Right.
And
That's true.
and that is so very important.
I agree.
Yeah. So Mike kept this away from me, and since I'm going to be his new publicist, and we go to Hollywood shows up here because we have all of this great history here. You're building trains, you're building railroad tracks. You have this legendary mill where the belt that has worked for 90 years is
Correct.
still graining the grits and the meal and the flour. You wrote a book, and what's in the book?
Little book is something to share with people about me growing up here, and some of the things that I got into and enjoyed playing and doing under the mill.
Okay.
And then it's a lot of.
So this was your playground?
This is playground.
Okay.
And the only whipping, Gloria, that I ever got from my granddaddy, I was under the mill, and I threw a railroad spike in that well where that turbine water wheel is. And my granddaddy came under and said, "What did you do?" And I said, "I threw a nail in there."
Oh.
He closed the mill, shut the mill down, and went down in that well and got that railroad spike and popped me on the rib.
Yes.
He said, "I didn't whip you for what you did.
Yes.
I whipped you for telling me a tale."
Exactly. You
You
didn't
didn't
tell
tell
the
the
truth.
truth.
Exactly.
That was the only time he ever hit
The Adventures of a Boy at the Mill.
me. Yeah.
And so we have recipes
it's
in
a
there.
great recipe book, and it's made up of all of the recipes that any of our customers ever share.
Share.
Okay. And so I have some here, and Mike has given me instructions. I am a starch person. I love grits. I want it with cheese. So you've given me this recipe, and I'm going to be cooking some on Sunday morning,
Good
like
deal.
I always do. And of course, my husband, he wants all of the bad things he's not supposed to have, but
A little won't hurt you.
a little won't hurt. Okay. Well, I thank you all so much for allowing us to come. I am looking forward to figuring out how I can get someone to support some children who may be socially or economically disadvantaged on a field trip.
Love
I
to
just
help.
think it's important to see that real work go into a lot of things. And everything is not instant microwave, air fry. This is the real deal. So I thank you all so much. I'm excited. I'm coming back. Publicly, let me say I am your publicist.
Please do.
And when Hollywood knocks on the door, they must call me
I will
first.
tell him to call Gloria.
All right, that sounds good. All right, this has been straightforward. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Until next time, be blessed.
What up, world? What's up, Columbus? Be sure to tune in every Sunday, straightforward with Gloria Strode, right here on NBC 38.